Welcome to another episode of Clear Light Connections, where we talk to the people behind the businesses of Bay Area Houston, proudly sponsored by UTMB Health. Fortunate enough to have Kim and Karen here today with the David Ortiz Foundation. Did some research. It's one of these stories where something out of tragedy is born something good. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the foundation and the work you're doing and kind of the story behind it.
Well, the story's been brought back up into the news recently. If anybody's been paying attention,
Yes.
They finally have made an arrest at just shy of 5 years after the actual fire. David was your average kid, all the way at college, and somebody got upset about something and lit a mattress on fire, and it cost him his life, along with 4 other students, or former students, in off-campus housing. That's older, which is the biggest issue there. And we have a young man who survived named Zach, who has had, I can't even tell you, can't even count how many surgeries he's had. He's lost fingers, toes, ears.
He's still continuing to have surgeries to this day.
Yeah.
And wonderful, wonderful young man.
Yeah.
But David was a student in Pasadena ISD, graduated
Yeah.
from
Pasadena Memorial, class
yeah.
of 2015. Yeah.
and went to Southwest Texas. And
Texas
Texas
State.
State.
Southwest Texas State does
I'm
not
showing
exist
my age.
anymore.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I had to learn that too. I had to get there too.
His mother is one of my best friends. She was my mentor when I first started teaching. And actually, I was on an emergency certificate because they needed a French teacher. And she unofficially mentored me for a year. And then when I got into the alternative certification program, became my actual mentor. And I've known David since then. So 15 years by the time he died.
Wow.
And he was a wonderful, wonderful young man, musician, football player. He would help out without being asked. He was just one of those kids. And we were so proud of him when he got into Texas State. And it was
It was a shocking event. I remember. I mean, you heard about it in the news, and it was just unbelievable.
Well, yeah, and for those of us that were there in the campus, I mean, realizing Gina works across the hall, or in the next hall from me. Gina and Kim are next door to each other. And I have met David only a couple of times. I've only been at Memorial 9 years now. So I was there just before he left. But to understand, I had college students at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And the reckoning that my kids lived in off-campus housing, and that this could have happened to easily one of my girls, was devastating to me, and I can't imagine what she was feeling at the time, and her whole entire family. And there's an ebb and a flow with grief, and it comes and it goes, and for them it's still extremely intense.
Yeah.
I can't imagine losing a child, and that kind of brought us together. And I work with nonprofit organizations on campus, and so we had the idea, Kim, come here. Kim, come here. Let me talk to you for a minute.
So you both started the foundation.
So it was, yeah. As okay. I know how to do the paperwork, and she knew Gina much better than I did at the time. And I said, is this something that you think they would like? So we hauled around and talked about it, and she kind of...
We had separate ideas at the same time.
Yeah.
And got together and created the David A. Ortiz Foundation because it's needed. Many colleges right now, the only people that stay on campus are their freshmen. And then your sophomore, juniors, and seniors are out in the world. And you just told us you're taking your daughter to college.
Yeah.
And most parents, you see an apartment. I know when I lived in apartments, I didn't run around checking smoke detectors. It wasn't even in my realm of imagination. And parents don't do it.
And there's so much going on when you're getting them in and meeting the roommate, and do you have this and do you have that?
Yeah.
It just kind of, oh yeah, there's one there, but nobody checks, does it work? I didn't even check, does it work? And Gina said the same thing. She said, I noticed it in passing, but I didn't check that it works. And that was part of the issues. I said some of them did, some of them didn't. And I have a little bit of experience. I managed apartments in the very early 80s, and getting an apartment ready and so forth. It's just, I don't even know where I was going with that. It's when you have a maintenance schedule and your maintenance man is out, that throws your schedule. And if they're gone for 2 days, it throws it even more. So this is really, now they're supposed to take care of all that. And if they're out for a day, that throws that whole schedule. Then they have emergency stuff. And that one day can make that difference.
Yeah.
That may be why David's alarm reportedly did not go off.
And from what they've said is that most of the survivors said very few of them heard alarms, that they did not go off.
Yeah.
And there were hundreds of people injured.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
it
it
went
was-
up like that.
It was bad. I remember
Yeah, it
that.
was kindling. The building was very old.
Yeah.
One of the things that we want to bring to the forefront to people is to talk to your city leaders and your county leaders and your state leaders to really, it's time to start addressing those building codes. I remember in the early 80s, they started making it mandatory to put sprinkler systems in, and there was a huge uproar because how much is it going to cost to retrofit and what are we going to do, blah, blah. Well, everything that was built before 1970 is exempted. It's time to change that now. If they're still going to be around, they've earned plenty of money for their ownership over the decades. It is time to retrofit them. Because had there been a sprinkler system installed, those kids would have had a fair fighting chance to get out.
Yeah, so let's talk about the purpose. What is the foundation trying to, accomplish and
Our
along the
main
way?
purpose is to educate students and families about fire safety, how to escape from a fire, and prevention, how to prevent it. So it's because nobody talks about it. Our website, actually, if you go to the David Ortiz davidortizfoundation.org, that's our website, and on the website we have resources for parents and for students to talk to their landlords, to talk to the government, checklists for parents and students when they're moving their kids in.
Well, you bring up a great point because in elementary school we do, the fire department comes in, you do stop, drop, roll.
Stop, drop, roll,
and
and
that's
that's
the end
about
of it.
it. That's
Yeah,
it.
that's kind of the end of it. And like you said, between 5th grade and you're going off to college, that's a lot of years. And there's no other refresher or any more talk about it. So you're trying to fill that gap and really get people to think,
And high school students, high school teachers, and even when I worked in the government, you have a fire drill. Mandatory fire drills once a month. You do them. And since they're mandatory and they're once a month, nobody takes them seriously because you do it all the time and it's the same thing at about the same time and nobody thinks about it. You get out in the hallway, you walk down.
Yeah.
I worked in Washington, D.C. in a skyscraper. And I looked at one of my friends, and this was before 9/11, before we had huge, disaster in our wrists, and said, we're on the 31st floor. There's no way we're getting down before something happens. And she's like, yeah, nothing's ever going to happen. And I said, I'm going to the roof. They can at least get a helicopter up to me. And she kind of looked, and we talked about it a minute, and then you'd forget it and move on.
Yeah.
But that's just because I'm weird. I think of things like that. Other people don't.
Yeah. Preparation and having a plan is really important.
Exactly.
And we learned that with Harvey.
Yep.
A lot of people who flooded out didn't have plans on how am I going to get out of my house? Do I have a rubber raft? Do I have a ladder to get out of the second floor? And they need to think about that for their kids.
Yeah.
If your kid's in an apartment on the second floor, yeah, there's stairs, but what if they can't get to the stairs? They need to be equipped.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we put out when we do our fundraiser at the end of each year. We have a big basket that we put together, and it has a smoke and carbon monoxide detector. It has a big fire blanket. If you can smother out a fire, great. If not, wrap it around yourself and run, because it'll run you through the fire. Smoke extinguishers, okay, and a 2-story fire ladder. They're only like $70. Every kid, especially if they're in a second floor apartment, needs an escape ladder to get out of that apartment because there's only one door that goes in and out of most apartments. Sometimes they have a balcony with a back door, but you still need something to get down or you're going to be in a negative situation as well. So, and this is, it's not that hard to get it together. People just don't think about it.
Yeah.
And those were some of the most major issues that people who were on the second floors jumped and broken legs, broken arms.
Landed on something and broke some ribs as well. And just, it's not a good situation. We need to think about this for our young adults.
Yeah.
Because they're not thinking. They're so busy being excited about their future that they're not thinking that something horrendous like this could happen.
Well, and what compounds it in this case is the fact that it was an evil act done by somebody. I mean, that's just...
It was a reckless act. From, he was, whatever in his world was upsetting him, and he put that all on that mattress that was there. And apparently we don't have,
Yeah.
To keep us on the right side of the law.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yes. But from the stories that we hear is that he just kind of manifested all of his anger on that mattress and didn't think beyond getting rid of the mattress. He didn't realize and didn't think what it could do. It was,
well, and fire moves so quickly.
It does.
People don't fully...
especially
my parents were volunteer firefighters, and fire can move. So it's so destructive that, and people don't think of it in those terms. And they really
a building
should.
that's 50 plus years old is very dried out.
Yeah.
Those materials are very old and dried out.
Yeah.
And honestly, if they've replaced anything, things that were built solidly in the 70s, you have about 20 minutes to escape from a home. According to statistics, if you build the exact same house with today's material, you have less than 5 minutes to get out because the material now burns much faster. So move it. You can't worry about those pictures or your computer drives or anything. Get yourself out the door.
And you bring up an interesting point, because what if I think, oh, my kid's going to a new apartment? Well, obviously that doesn't make a difference in this case.
Except that they do have sprinkler systems.
Right.
They do have sprinkler systems. And they do have smoke alarms. And like I said, one guy out on your schedule can mess up one building, even one floor of a building.
And that's one of the things that we're doing with, every year we've now donated two of the kids. We are focusing on kids that go to Texas State, because we do have, that's where David was going, and we do have a relationship with them. And we are doing now 3 scholarships, and we've donated up to 10, depending on the number of kids that are going to Texas State, Nest battery-operated smoke alarms.
Okay, great.
Yeah, the smoke and carbon monoxide,
If they're freshmen, they can put it in their own dorm room, and it won't cause an issue because they can take it with them.
Yeah, you can hang them with those command tabs, and when you get ready to go, so it's something that can follow that child from beginning years in college all the way to their first apartment, to their first home. Okay, because they last about 10 years.
So let's talk about, you guys are very passionate about this. My guess is you put a lot of time in, so you've got a lot of sweat equity, but it takes more than that to run a nonprofit. So let's talk about your fundraising, and what is your big fundraising event?
We have what we have called a spring fling for the last 5 years. And it's generally we have some music. We try to have, snacky things and drinks and whatever have you. We raffle off David's parents own Pedigo Galveston, so they donate an electric bike. And that is raffled, and that is our primary fundraiser. This past year, we had 52 vendor booths that helped out a bit, and they brought in, to bring in their stuff. We kind of took a big leap and went to the convention center this year.
In Pasadena?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was a huge leap, and it was not the best day, and then it decided to rain. So it wasn't the best event, but we still did as well as we have done.
Okay, good.
So it wasn't a loss, and the convention center was wonderful. But that is our big event each spring. We're looking to have a couple events a year, but we're not quite there yet.
So
about it this year. Yeah.
It's a great cause. It's a very touching story. How can people get involved?
Right now, actually, up on our Facebook page, which is the David A. Ortiz Foundation. We actually have a fundraiser running right now, so they can donate. If they want to donate the Nest battery-operated fire alarms or smoke alarms to us, we would love that.
Our address information is there. Yes, and contact you. They'll reach me when they call. And I can make arrangements to pick up any kind of donations like that. Our mailing address is 4808 Fairmont Parkway, Suite 458, and 77504. And they can mail any kind of check that they would like to donate there. And as far as actual devices and stuff, just call me. The number's on our website, and I think it's on the Facebook page.
We're actually on all 4 major social media platforms. On Facebook, where there's the David A. Ortiz Foundation. On Instagram, we're on there as You can find it under the David A. Ortiz Foundation, or DAO 72318 is the other one. And on Instagram, it's the Ortiz, I'm not Instagram, Twitter, it's the Ortiz Foundation.
Okay.
And it pops up. And you can't miss David's picture.
Yeah, it's almost always there.
So you guys built this up out of tragedy to try to do some good, and bless you for doing that. It's the perfect response to make something bad. And what are you hoping for in the next 5 to 10 years grows out of this?
Our first goal is to be able to give every single high school graduate in at least our school district a device to go with them when they leave. Right now, it's limited to those who apply and that we have enough money for. Okay, we have given, like she said, as many as 10 in 1 year. We'd like it. I'm considering that our high schools graduate 670 to around 1,000 students each year, right?
Yeah, this last year we were at 774 graduates.
And I know Dobie was a little over 1,000. Yeah, so that's a lot of people. And that in 10 years' time, when we're 10 years old, I would love to be able to hand each one of them, along with their diploma, one of these devices, because it's at least a start and some information, and the information will always be there on the website. So all the new stuff.
And in 10 years, we would love it for parents and students, but parents, the kids are graduated, they're going to college, they're still your kids, and they're still thinking like kids. And we would love for the parents to walk in and go, okay, this is where you're living. Is it safe?
Yeah.
And honestly, we're coming at it from the fire standpoint, but from every standpoint, because it doesn't matter how your child dies. It's horrible.
Yeah.
I can tell you, this morning, going through David's Facebook page, looking at some things because I was just thinking about him, I was in tears.
Yeah.
Because none of those kids deserved it. None of them.
It didn't need to happen.
It did.
Did not need to
It was
happen.
100% preventable.
Yeah.
And
So-
it's just, it's tragic. You hear about it, and it's like you don't think about it till it affects you. And, he affected a lot of kids at our school.
Yeah.
He was that kid who touched everybody's heart. He was a football player. He was intelligent. He was nice. He saw you walking up the hall with something, and he'd come and grab it from you. He'd come and move stuff in my room without me asking.
Yeah.
And that's just because he knew me through his mom.
Yeah.
And I knew him growing up. He's that kid, and now he's gone.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Yeah.
As a teacher, this is going to be my 20th year, and 100 kids a year come through my class. And Karen will tell you, I'm in everything. I'm one of those that
Can't
they
say
say,
no, huh?
can you? Yeah, no, yeah.
No,
Someone
it
knows that
says
too.
Automatic yes, right across your forehead.
And, 2 years ago, I was the senior class sponsor, and that's 700 kids that knew my name, and I knew a lot of them, and I worry every year.
Yeah.
This year, I'm the one of the senior class sponsors this year, and it's hard.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, forming this foundation, you're doing great work, so it's good you said yes. I want to thank you both for being on, kind of giving us some background and reminding us that, the kids are going off, and we need to, like you said, make sure they're safe and
Make sure they're safe. Well, and not just for everybody, and not just for our kids. These changes need to happen. There have been 5 apartment fires within 2 miles of Pasadena Memorial in the last 2.5 years, with lots of injuries. And so it's a thing for everybody, particularly for high school kids leaving out. But it's for everybody.
yeah. I mean, fire safety, it's for everybody. Yeah.
Now, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Have we changed your mind about thinking about your child going off to school? Have we brought up some things you're going to be thinking about?
Yeah, I'll give the old fire alarm a check.
Good.
Not the sprinkler. I'll leave the sprinkler alone. I heard you don't test those.
Yeah, Well, if she's going to be in a dorm on campus, odds are that it has a sprinkler system.
One on a dorm, the other one's in an apartment in College Station. But I'm probably going to make a trip up there. Let's put it that way.
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
We made at least
Definitely.
Or
one
at least
difference.
at least I'll tell her go push the button and see if it works.
Yeah.
I probably won't do that. She's not that technical.
Or make her video it.
Yeah.
FaceTime
There you
her.
go. Yeah.
She just needs a broomstick. Boop.
Yeah.
The cool thing about ours is it self-tests and it tells you if it has a problem because you have an app.
Well, all right. Thank you so much for being on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it.